Konnichiwa, fellow Armchair General Samas. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4. No, boy, that's a mistake. Hearts of Iron 3. Black Ice 9.11. And of course, we're playing as Nihon, Nippon, Japan. Okay, let's continue this. Okay, give them the money for metal, no thank you. I no longer see money for supplies, okay. And yeah, we could stockpile some more. I know that's long, but that's a long shipping, but okay, mostly because we want good relations with Iran. Okay. What was I thinking? Actually, you know, Huff Duff. High frequency direction finding radio apparatus. Basically, that is which way they be. Oh, we have even more, do we? Okay, didn't even look over here. Oh, okay, we can go almost 1.5 more. Just really now starting to get into getting ready for our war against China. Just starting, as in sending these guys now. Just to sort of show you, these dark areas, level 1 infrastructure. So we can't fight across them. So other than trying to reduce revolt risk, which isn't a thing currently, that's, well, we can look here and see there are some, but it's currently balanced out between things, so not a real issue. I think these sort of fascist militia types will be used for occupation and holding the line, as it were, with the Chinese. I think that will help considerably, and we are getting okay. We're researching motorized support units, and I want some of those soon to go with these two divisions I'm upgrading. Decided to create with this one. This division also basically exists in Hearts of Iron 4 version of Black Ice. Motorized or semi-motorized, well, I don't know that we'll get much better speed. Especially with the artillery there. Slowing down percentage and the motorized. I don't know that we're going to get much better speed. But we're going from the cavalry to armored cars, and I've added the instead of the standard headquarters, we have Tomoyuki Yamashita as battle commander there. Okay, anti-air upgrade, great. Okay. Now, we're gonna shift over here. Make sure our artillery is up to the job of bashing the Chinese. And military police, very good. Yeah, it's this one down here, and we're gonna let that go. It just improves their organization for various types, which, if they have to fight, it helps. So we're improving our steel output, coal mine, and rare materials. Rare materials is a thing that we have to struggle with is Germany. As Japan, once we can start moving down into here, won't be a thing that we have to struggle with. So long as we can maintain supply lines open, but hey. But still a little bit now would be helpful. Okay, direct unit fire control advanced, very nice. Let's shift this actually over to here so that we can eventually get more combined arms there. And anti-tank upgrade, that is here. Okay. We haven't even researched those yet, but soon. Amphibious unit training. We'll do this. Well, yeah, because we have a bunch of these type of horsey units that are here that don't have artillery and things, but every real sort of unit has some sort of artillery, which helps. Well, so when we improve the artillery, it helps all the real divisions, not just this particular type of division. Okay, I'm getting the wrong tab. Recon is another thing that most every division has, and it helps speed things along, so we'll do that. Okay. The convoys and escorts are important and will help. Okay. Oh, what? That was Hiroshima. Where is Hiroshima? Nagasaki, that was the second atomic bomb. Now, there is, okay, here's Hiroshima, and we are maxed out. I wanted to make sure, because I know we had two heavy, there's a lot of, okay, I'll say it, propaganda going around about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Again, I'd still love to hear from anybody living in Japan who's watching this series. Not that you have to share your thoughts on anything. I'd just like to know if people are. I don't know if you know this. I didn't know this, so I presume most of you don't know it. Before they dropped the bombs, both on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a few days before, they did a major leafleting campaign to both of those cities, announcing that they were going to be destroyed by bombing. I don't know if they specified one bomb so terrible to destroy the whole city, but that it was coming very shortly, and that you should evacuate the city. And to the best of my knowledge, there was no real evacuation going on. Now, of course, if it's a major industrial city, the army or whoever, wants the production going, so they're not going to evacuate the city. But the U.S. did what it could, and it picked both Hiroshima and Nagasaki because those two cities had not been bombed before. They wanted to pick a target, a city that was unbombed, so that you would see just what the devastation of a single bomb would do. And of course, as we know, it was a bluff, because they only really sort of had the two bombs. They couldn't have thrown a fifth, a sixth, a seventh bomb. They wanted to make Japan presume that if they didn't stop, they keep getting nuked. Now, some of the fire bombings in Tokyo and other places, I think, killed more people. I don't have the death tolls in front of me. And so it wasn't worse than any other bombings in that sense, in death toll sense. It was obviously worse as a single bomb, but not as a other bombing. Now, Curtis LeMay is or was, I should say, a proponent of bombing warfare. Did he hate people? I don't think so. What he saw was things like the Battle of Iwo Jima here, that many of you are familiar with, at least in a vague sense, and watched the very good John Wayne movie of Iwo Jima. If you haven't, I have actually not watched the Clint Eastwood Raising the Flag or Flags of Our Fathers or whatever that was that he did. And I hear it's good. I just haven't seen it. Probably should watch it at some point for this series as another sort of thing. And that cost a lot of American lives to take that island here. And somebody like Curtis LeMay looks at it as why should any American have to die? I mean, America didn't start any of these, World War I or World War II. Why should they have to die? What is the purpose to die? So can we win the war without a single American death? Obviously not. But the idea is why should any Americans have to die? And so he wanted to go after the industrial capacity of the enemy. And they found particularly with Japan, but also Germany too, but that lower level precision bombing was just not working effectively. One, more aircraft got shot down because it was lower levels. And it just wasn't targeting, effectively stopping production. So area bombing and high altitude area bombing, and particularly in Japan with its huge amounts of wooden structures, that you could do that and create big firestorms and destroy it. So it wasn't targeting the civilians, it was targeting the industry by destroying the city. And of course there's civilians there. But then again, the civilians cheered hurrah, hooray when they went to war with America, so they wanted a war with America, and that's what you get when you go to a war with America. You get attention from America. And, you should learn that. And so, to the point they got what they were asking for. They went to war with America, so they get bombed. And I believe, man, I'm always lousy with these things because I'm not very good at air power. The B-29 was, I think, exclusively used against Japan, and that had a pressurized crew compartment, not just the cockpit, but crew compartment and other things, very much that it could get up there and come in over Japan. Basically, like the old Zeppelins did over Britain, in that they were almost too high of an altitude for the Japanese to even hardly get fighters up to that altitude. They could get that high because a lot of the Japanese fighters, I don't think, had oxygen set up in them. And like I say, it's not, I don't think, so high of an altitude that people are going to get sick from the lack of pressure. What they get sick is from a lack of oxygen because it's just too thin. So by pressurizing the crew compartments, you don't have to everybody doesn't have to wear oxygen masks. Again, I say this because I don't think, and I'm trying to remember, I don't ever remember seeing a photograph of a Japanese pilot specifically with oxygen masks, where a lot of Allied pilots had that. But so you can go up there, and unlike you see the B-17 flight flying fortresses, with open windows with all the machine guns sticking out of them. The B-29s were all, closed up, and everything is, at least where the crew is all pressurized so they can breathe normally. I think they probably did have oxygen in case something does go wrong with the system, or the cabin gets, poked holes through and loses its pressure. And so you can get up to these altitudes and bomb, and that saved a lot of American pilots. Now, like Tarawa before, Iwo Jima was very controversial at the time. William Randolph Hearst, he's the guy that wants a war with Spain and gets it by his yellow journalism, and they no longer, I don't know if they used to teach about yellow journalism in the universities and such. I doubt they do that anymore, because we are in a bigger yellow journalist age than we ever were. And yellow journalism sort of goes back to the idea of journalism pushing an agenda. And William Randolph Hearst, who owned more newspapers, and this is in the days before radio, more newspapers than anybody else in America, and pushed, Remember the Maine, and got us the Spanish-American War. But he never liked Roosevelt and whatever, so he was very critical. Well, he had a critical piece run in his newspapers across America just after the Iwo Jima campaign, because there were a lot of casualties on there, and basically praising MacArthur. MacArthur should run the Pacific campaign, and slamming the Navy and the Marine Corps for sacrificing so many lives and trying to do that agenda. There was some survivors at the time, from Iwo Jima, as well as just other Marines in San Francisco, that over 100 of them, because William Randolph Hearst was living in California at the time, but one of his major newspapers was up in San Francisco. San Francisco Chronicle, but I don't know. Yes, newspapers used to be conservative at one point in history. Stormed the offices of his newspaper in San Francisco, demanding either a retraction or allow them to have an article refuting this stuff. Well, basically, the editor said, "I follow orders just like you." Got ordered to run this thing, and so they not wanting to leave the office, call Hearst up, who was at his quote unquote castle. It's not a castle, it's a big palace at San Simeon, and wanted to talk to him, and basically he wouldn't come to the phone. They said he was busy. Now, if you know anything about San Simeon, there he also had huge amounts of ranch land, which they ran a lot of cattle on. I'm sure he wasn't involved in this, but he was involved in a huge sort of private zoo in which a lot of exotic animals were maintained. Things like lions and tigers or whatever big dangerous things in very large cages, or not even probably appropriate cages, very large, enclosed areas. They weren't like if you see 1930s zoos, you'll see a tiger or a lion in like a 20-foot by 20-foot cage, and that's sort of how they're kept. Very inhumane compared to modern day zoos. I'm all for modern day zoos. The animals may not be happy in there compared to they would be in the wild or something, but then again, of course, they live longer, and I think they're treated well. But they also allow people who aren't going to go to Africa or whatever to really see these animals, which brings people closer and more likely to give to wildlife funds and other things to protect the animals in the wild. So modern zoos are good. Old zoos, they didn't know any better, people. It wasn't like, oh, we're cruel to these lions or tigers or whatever. They just didn't know any better. But because I've seen some of the stuff where they kept them. But other animals that weren't dangerous predators, and not even so much dangerous to humans, they just didn't want being prey against the animals. They had lots of, zebras and ostriches and other sorts of, fairly exotic animals that would live well enough in sort of central California, out running around in sort of the wild out there on his land, and maintained, or in, again, very large enclosures. So he very well may have not been right at the phone when they called, but he didn't take their call. And so Nimitz, who approved the Iwo Jima campaign, partially pushed by Curtis LeMay to get Iwo Jima, after the war was over, was very concerned because it was a very high casualty. And was it necessary to take Iwo Jima? That's because also when this is sort of all Okinawa, I guess. They were going after Okinawa too, at some point as well. But was this one worth it, or should it be bypassed? Because the Navy was very much, and I know the Army was getting ready for, when they dropped the atomic weapons, to invade Japan. The Navy didn't want to invade Japan. Admiral King, the guy in charge of the Navy in Washington, D.C., he wanted to take some land and take some territory here in China. He was pushing that instead of Iwo Jima, and maybe also take some of Korea, so that you could build air bases there more effectively and bomb Japan from there. And they just wanted to do land-based bombing campaigns against Japan, and submarines and other means of cutting off raw materials, and just, I don't think Japan, and I don't think they were thinking to starve them out of food, so that people starve, but because I think they produced, well, I do know that they were rationing food, and especially some of the good foods and stuff like that. And I'm sure we'll get into more of that. But I don't think you were going to literally starve them out of food, but you were going to starve them of coal, iron, steel, whatever, the ability to build, get aluminum to build fighters, and that kind of thing, is just make it impossible to wage a modern war and not invade. That was the Navy. Now, of course, the Navy, isn't a land-based operation, so they, want to win wars by sea power, of course, and with the advent of air power, they could, bomb things, so they wanted to do it. And when after the war, they sort of totaled up all of the bombers and other aircraft that landed, because this was mostly used as a, so you can see it's not very big. There's just a little bit more of the island not in this photo. As an emergency, there were several airstrips built on it under the Americans as an emergency landing, because I think they were mainly using Saipan here, and Guam. Guam really booms once the Americans get back in power of it, with control of it, as the main bombing bases. And so from all of the aircraft that landed here with their air crews as well, I'm sure some of the aircraft might have been able to make it back to somewhere else, but with wounded pilots on it, because it wasn't all, I'm not saying they can't quite get at the aircraft out there, and they actually start with a lower level trying to do precision bombing, but all of that, as well as aircraft ditching nearby and reporting going down, and able to sort of get quick rescue, because they were able to constantly base shipping and rescue stuff out here. More people were saved than at least the deaths of, because then obviously there's, other casualties too, but then the deaths in taking Iwo Jima. So purely on a net positive of lives for the Americans, more were saved by taking Iwo Jima than lost, by at least by one set of calculations, which I believe, some of the stuff, some of the aircraft decided to land here because they were sort of shot up and maybe could have made it here or something, we don't know, but it was just a general thing that it did help out. So that's how the U.S. or the Navy wanted to. The Army, of course, wants to invade, because that's what they do. They land and they fight land battles, So the Army, if you have a hammer, all problems start looking like a nail. It's that kind of thing. So if you've got tank divisions and infantry divisions, you're not going to propose, oh yeah, let's sail around in boats. You're going to propose land combat. And of course, they didn't know that the nuclear weapons were coming, and no one knew what was going. Not that it was, because they at least test fired 1 or 2 bombs in, I forget which, in New Mexico, I believe it was at the time. They did test a couple, and so they presumed they were going to work, but they didn't know what the effect on the war was going to be, other than a big boom. What were the Japanese going to do because of it, and then what was going to be the because they didn't have 100 of them, to take everything else out. So they didn't know. So of course they were planning other things. Okay, capital ship main armament, I think, at least for a while, yeah, that is ending our... We'll maybe do some of that eventually, and these eventually, but sort of ending our big capital ship. Research and development, this is maybe not quite, we'll get to some of that, but we're looking again for stuff for going in, not so much anti-air though, we'll probably get there. I'm sure we'll get there at some point. Armored car designs, probably. We're going after, yeah, let's do armored car designs. That way, because we have a fair number of those, and that will help things out. We'll wait for 2 or 3 more of these guys to hopefully pop up. Oh, okay, well, we've already got to the positive, so yes. Yes, probably won't last long, but yes. That may, small amount. And at least it looks like we're still producing more than we need. Don't want to do too many small agreements, using up too much of our... We are, of course, building more, so that's good. And we're getting that. We got that. So let's build 2 more escorts. We want well-escorted convoys. That's something the Japanese did not do well at all. Okay, well, we've gone back down to low popularity, and then Eisenhower is launched, and no. Okay, we still have a positive amount of coal. And metal, oh, that's actually pretty good. But we did buy that big chunk. And Scharnhorst from Germany coming in, stocking up on it. We got 34,000 coal and 9,000 steel, so that's, if we're going to have immediate, we would give them fuel for money, sure. We're going to have immediate problems because of lack of resources. It'll be steel before it's coal. Okay, fighter ground crew training, very good. Yeah, we're gonna let that go. Now, so far I've been presuming, that's really sort of all I could say, presuming that we're going to have good enough fighters to deal with China. And I know none of us are expecting to see either huge numbers of fighters in China highly effective ones, but I'm looking here. Okay, now. What are they? Okay. Okay, so that is our Air Command, Dai Nippon Teikoku Rikugun. Okay. So we only have a few fighters. Damn. Well, that's the ones we just looked at. No, we got 2 groups here. We got some fighter bombers. He should not be a... He should be one of these guys. Fleet destroyer or something. Okay. Well, we need to build more fighters. They'll upgrade over time. So let's do that. And let's do a carrier air group. That'll take many more days, yeah. But still, it's worth getting that into the production queue because we're going to get through that. Because these are going to happen fairly soon. Mobile unit combined arms has advanced. Very good. Yeah, we could let that go. We have very little of them, I know, but still. How is our research going of... transport holes? Okay, transport ship holes. Okay, March 38? Oh, that's gonna push back. So we want... fighter pilot advance. I really sort of feel I need to be able to do landings when we start the war with China. And not just hopefully we get that, take, you know, goofy transports from the fishing fleet things, but proper invasion stuff. And I want to do it, I want to be sure of doing it at the start. Because we very well may be able to push down through here, but it would be so much more effective and also historical to do landings in other locations. Okay, and if China feels that it can focus its war up here, it's going to be a lot different compared to being able to hit in other spots. Industrial advance. Okay, good. That's very good, actually. 38. Yeah, we're gonna... Well... Nope, we're gonna keep that going. We'll probably do that. That will push up our needs for rare or materials, not any one, but just generally speaking. we're doing okay with oil. Okay, advanced education, investment, advanced. We're going to let that one continue. That will get us much more leadership. Sort of, at least temporarily, replace going into low popularity for the moment now. Let's look at intelligence. Okay, ruling party support. Let's up that. And we can also try to raise national unity too. Let's see if we can steal some technology from the Germans. That's a good one. Reason I'm doing this is so that hopefully they'll have a lot of stuff that we don't have, and that maybe it'll be a savings in leadership. I don't know. Instead of researching, I definitely know when we played the Italian game, we captured or we stole so much research. It was, I would say, invested in it, worth it, because normally it doesn't look that way with Germany, but you're normally so far ahead of everybody else with Germany. Okay, Great War analysis. Good. And yes, can keep going. Let's keep thinking about the Great War some more. Okay, cavalry exploitation, and that is now maxed out, so we can do stormtrooper tactics. And who else, or what else? Submarine fire control. That's the one that's probably too far in advance. Yeah. Yeah, I see the downsides with that, but let's go with that too. Coastal submarines, good, and we want to continue to improve things, so let's get the engines back developing, and single engine fighter prototypes. Okay, which will allow us to get some of that going. Okay, still haven't even got to those yet, but we're getting through the coal mines and the steel refinery really quick. Okay. That will be helpful. Begin of the Great Officer Purge. Yes, good. Medium popularity again, great. And attritional warfare has advanced. Okay, good. And in a way, I don't know why that's specifically morale improver, but my opinion, wars are either wars of decision and maneuver, or they are wars of attrition. Morgan Freeman's birth, don't know why that is put there, but okay. Glad the Beijing thing is hanging around, because once we're at war, and I think then we won't lose our either mixed industry or full mobilization or whatever it was, is when I want to form it. We do get a small army there for it. That okay, so these guys will come here. Just working to get our border. Standard infantry branch upgraded, great. That's grayed out. Defensive position, garrison, tropical island. Yeah, I think we want to do that. And we need to bump that up a little bit. Oh good, we've got our motorized division. Building our armor. Okay, so we can now build more stuff. Oh, pause. Okay, grand battle plan has advanced. Yeah, let's do recon coordination. And these guys are just sort of backup for other things and will be useful even off of land-based. Yeah, we need a lot of fighters right now to start out with, even these old junky stuff, like, because unlike Hearts of Iron 4, they will upgrade to better models. So we got to think, even though I want a lot of naval bombers and flying boats, I think we want to let's start with some of these guys. I think we want more air power to be able to overwhelm when needed. Okay, I think we have enough money that'll put a big dent, and hopefully stockpile some more. We give them no. We are trying to be economical with what we have of those. Yes, we will be getting 40 more escorts, which are good. This will be interesting to see how this goes. I know a few have thought that I was just gonna, run rampant and smash into Washington D.C., let alone Washington State, and maybe I will, but if the AI is even half smart and it fights me, it should be able to crush me, because I know America well enough. I'm not talking historically, I'm talking within this game, and seeing what it can do, that if it gets off its ass and starts being aggressive with its divisions, it can just smash into me. I don't know if I'll be smart enough with the Navy effectively to sink units, shipping, as well as when they're shipping the units at sea, to sink them. Okay. And I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. I want to thank you for subscribing if you haven't already, or if you have, thanks for being a subscriber. And of course, I really love hearing from you, so please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, corrections. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.